my mom and grandma would kill me if I didn't teach pro bono because they were both educators as well. So I'm doing right by them. All right, so we left off, we're going to roll into soil memory, and it's going to curtail right off of the inherent and dynamic soil properties that we were talking about and the soil taxonomy. And we'll revisit that conceptual design when we talk about the case study for Mount Hall. So soil memory, what is it? It's a concept that holds that below ground inherent soil characteristics are retained longer through time, thus being able to tell the history of any given landscape. Different environmental factors like a warming environment, conifer encroachment, human land use, they can all change the above ground appearance of any landscape, but the below ground characteristics, they will stay for a long, long time. And tonight we're going to be remembering the mollisol soil order and what that soil type tells us. And I'm going to also highlight two other unique soil types in the Mount Hall area, andisols, those are the volcanic ash cap soils. And I'll talk about hydric soils, those are wetland soils, and you can find those soils in any of the 12 soil orders. And they are very environmentally important, and we'll get to that. So about soil memory. The NRCS did this soil memory campaign a couple of years ago, and I've lifted these, the next two slides I lifted for my colleagues at the NRCS. This is one that's remembering water saturation. In saturated soils, the bacteria that live there, they don't respirate with oxygen. They use the energy provided from minerals in the soil, and they give off their biological cellular respiration excrement is blue in anaerobic conditions. Now, in land management techniques, it's not uncommon to de-water saturated soils and turn those into ag soils. And when that happens, those characteristics of saturated soil remain from that reduced iron and from the bacteria that caused that. So that's remembering. That's soil memory right there. It remembers water saturation. This doesn't have any bearing for us here. These are tundra soils. These are the gellisols, the one that could be maybe not in this state, but I think they are. This up here, this is called cryoturbation. It's just a great word. If you play Scrabble, bust that out, you probably win. All that is frost churning in the soil, and it just mixes things up. This is active cryoturbation in the Alaskan Arctic. This is cryoturbation that used to happen. This is on the Tibetan Plateau. It is no longer a gellisol and no longer cryoturbating because of a warming climate, but we are able to tell that at some time in the past that there was a colder climate and the soil remembers that. So that's the concept of soil memory, okay? So the case study this is how I applied the soil memory concept and the using soil science in that forest planning conceptual model that we looked at. So Mount Hall was where I applied this. I was team lead and soil scientist for this project. It is not done yet. We will be releasing the draft EA out to the public on February 12th. So please stay tuned for that. Please give us comments. Look at it. It's in your backyard. It's your national forest land. We're all really proud of the product that we're putting out. So I think we all know where Mount Hall is. If you don't, north central Washington, northeast of Tonasket, just southeast of Oroville, and the green, what we call the Mount Hall block, and that's the Greenland Forest Service land around it. And we have restoration techniques that we're going to apply throughout all 21,600 acres of Mount Hall. So the soil mapping for the county, as I've said before, is really excellent. It's the Soil Survey Geographic Database, also known as SURGO, that was done by the NRCS. This is available to each and every one of you here through the Web Soil Survey portal. At the end of this presentation, there is a website there that you can zoom in to your property. You can put a little polygon around your property. You can bring in the soil map, and it'll give you all these different soil properties. It's a really cool tool. I think it's probably hands down the best thing the NRCS has ever done with their tax dollars. It's a really powerful tool, and I use it a lot. So what I did was I used that SURGO data. I mapped it on Mount Hall. The blue polygons are the mollisol, the grassland soil types. Then the green polygons and those purple polygons, those are the volcanic ash cap soils, the andisols, and we'll get to why those are important here in just a little bit. And what's really important is the ground verification part of this. You can do the mapping geospatially, but you need to take that out to the field and ground verify that, because not all the soil map units that I verified were mollisol. There is a little bit of soil mapping error that's just inherent with that, because the soil mappers cannot touch every acre of ground when they produce these soil maps. So there's what we call associations and complexes in soil science, and that's based off of land features, elevations, stuff like that. So, but they did really good on those complexes and associations for this county, and they put out a really good product. So that's what I used as my base layer, and that's using all of those inherent soil quality characteristics to get this mapping. So this is just to show how unique the andesol, the volcanic soil cap order is. I didn't show the eastern seaboard. It's not out of disrespect to our brethren over there, they just simply don't have any volcanic ash cap soils on the seaboard, so I cut them out. Now the mollisols is pretty interesting. Worldwide, arable land, mollisols incorporate probably about 8 to 10% worldwide. In the United States, we have about 23 to 25% of our land base in mollisols, so we have more than our fair share of the most productive soil of the 12 soil orders. So that's one of the reasons why we're really good at producing a lot of food in this country, also with a little bit of technology of the Green Revolution and things like that. But it's because, the main factor is because we have a lot of the best soil order, and that's the mollisols. So here's Mount Hall. The way that I'm going to proceed through this is we'll start with the ideal condition. If you're going to go to Mount Hall and you're going to dig soil and you're going to find this mollisol soil type, these are the conditions that you want to find. You want it to have an open canopy, low tree density. You want to have it grass and fork dominated with a mix of shrubs. And this is a big one for Okanogan County. Recent fire history. You know, right here we got fire here, and without fail, every hole that I dig in this county, it doesn't matter if it's on the Tenasket side, the Met House side, I always find charcoal. We have a really rich fire history in this county, and I think a lot of us know that we need to start learning to live with fire a little bit more. It's tragic when fire gets out of hand. I think we all know that, and I'm not trying to minimize that or marginalize that in any way, but we can be proactive, and we don't have to keep having this. So we're going to go from ideal conditions to removing fire from the landscape. Conifers are going to start encroaching on the mollisol soil types, and the negative things start happening. So this is recent conifer encroachment on what I call Pacific bunchgrass ecosystems. That's blue bunch wheatgrass, fescue, legumes, arrowleaf balsam roots, and needlegrass, just all those components of a Pacific bunchgrass ecosystem. And what's going on right here, not there, is you're seeing a lot of these small diameter ponderosa pines that are starting to encroach on all this bunchgrass and what would have otherwise been an open grass fork dominated ecosystem. You can see that mollisol right there. We use the inherent soil quality of the color to get to that. And when you remove fire in this instance, it's starting to reduce bighorn sheep habitat. Bighorn sheep are grazers, they like the bunchgrass. Mount Hall has one of the better bighorn sheep herds in the state of Washington, and the reason for that is because of the habitat, okay? And that MA11, I guess you're not Forest Service employees, that's Management Area 11, that's a bighorn sheep management unit. So we were directed by Forest Plan, and we were asked by the state Fish and Wildlife Service if there was anything that we could do to enhance bighorn sheep habitat. Guess what? We have a way to do that. So this is a little bit older conifer encroachment. This has probably missed at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 fire return intervals. It's dominated by large, they're semi-large Doug fir. No recent fire history. We have the mollisol soil type right here. And if you were to walk through this, you would think that that was a forest, right? That the forest should be there, but you're not going to get these soil conditions on a closed canopy like that. It's just not going to happen. And the grass and forb diversity in here has been greatly reduced. There's no bunch grasses left. It's been reduced, or it's been replaced with more shade-tolerant species like pine grass and some of these, I think that's manna grass and some other ones. It's not what should have been there. Okay? And the red arrows at these bigger ponderosa pines that are here, those ponderosa pines survive the saw because they have defects in them, so they wouldn't have made good wood, good boards. So we can use that as kind of a surrogate of the tree spacing that would have been out there if we would have had a regular fire return interval. We would have had that wide tree spacing. It would have been a closed canopy. You would have had a lot of sun to the forest floor to produce the grass and forb community that would have originally been there. I do a lot of burned area emergency response work for the Forest Service. That's post-fire response. And we analyze soil burn severity. And I can tell you about 90% of the time when I see conditions like this, they're usually associated with a high soil burn severity, simply because the residence time, radiant heat, it just cooks the soil. So we can be proactive and fix that. You know, we're not clear cutting a forest because we would not have these soil conditions under a closed canopy. And that's important to remember because folks might think that we're going to clear cut. That's not a clear cut. That's an anomaly of taking fire out of the ecosystem.